So today is International Women's Day. So today I thought I'll make the second part of the video that I started on Valentine's Day, February 14th, and that is about the pelvic breath. Now, this is basically in reference to the original 0-1 technology or the push-pull technology, yeah, which is very organic. And I specifically mention this about this today, the part 2 today, because all life began from the Lord of the Rings, so to speak, the birthing canal. History of mankind is written in the vaginal vault of a woman, and it's from this narrow birthing canal that all life began. Yeah, whether a male or a female, a life began from, unless you've had a cesarean, in which case it is like how Julius Caesar was said to have been dragged out of his mother's womb, which was yesteryear's reference to a cesarean section. All birth happened through the narrow birthing canal, and that's the natural organic pathway. And any form of surgery is one way or the other cutting into the fabric of time and space, and which over time has to heal. Yeah, and so given that history of mankind is written in the vaginal vault of a woman, another reference to this is because the push-pull technology is also the reason why a fetus forms, a baby forms in the mother's womb to begin with. The birthing may be through the vaginal canal or through cesarean, but the original reason for birthing, of course we have the IVF technology these days, but still that is a replication of what began, of what is naturally through the birthing canal, yeah, 0-1 technology. Now this may sound very categorical and more a lot of people are not comfortable with the intimacy that I refer to, but this is also the reproductive hole. Now our body has 10 holes, as I've mentioned in the previous video. 2 holes of the nose, 2 holes of the eyes, 2 holes of the ears, 1 hole of the mouth, 1 hole of for the urinary exit, 1 hole for the stool exit, feces, and 1 hole for the reproductive fluid, reproductive gamete exit. Yeah. Now, for males and females, you may be saying, the equipment is different. Nevertheless, it's between the male and the female tenacity. Though the equipment is different, it's like a lock and key mechanism. Yeah. In Hindi they say on every dani dani pe likha hota hai khane wale ka naam, which is referring to the specificity and the precision with which nature has made the male and female species. In Hindi there is okay, what dani dani pe likha hota hai khane wale ka naam means on every grain of food, for example, there is the eater's name. Yeah, it's like fate. Yeah, or destiny. So every grain of food we eat has had our name in some way written on it, and hence we happen to be eating it. So in terms of cosmic intelligence, or you can also say in terms of the symbol of the heart, yeah, where it represents two halves, heart. I'm holding this. I'll show you. Okay, it's like this, yeah, heart. Okay, okay. So two halves of the heart refers to one, like a male body may be referred to as one whole half of a heart, and the female body may be referred to as one whole half of a heart. And for every male, there is said to be a complementary female, yeah, like nature nurture, and which is why we have the male and the female equipment, the male and the female dynasty, yeah, and so reproduction, babies, there may be artificial means of conception, but natural birth happens by the male and female, sperm and ovum, yeah, and health of future generations is also said to be according to, when in Malayalam there is a verse that says Vittu gunam pattu gunam, which means the seed needs to be 10 times viable than where it comes from. Now, according to sacred geometry, every person is a seed of life. Yeah, like a plant gives out fruit, and then from the fruit there's a seed, and the seed, which when good enough, when you plant it, needs to give the plant needs to be 10 times viable than where it comes from. Now, how can we ensure that? Then we can ensure that, okay, so I read an article from Goanese farmer, yeah, actually the Prime Minister there quoted the story. They spoke about watermelon, when they're growing watermelon, to make sure that future generation of crops is healthier. What they would do is they would save some watermelon and then take that seed and then sow. Now, if they sowed the leftover fruits, the seeds from leftover fruits, that means the best of the fruits has been sold, and what is left over may not have been as attractive or as good enough that somebody wants to buy it. Yeah, so the future crops may not have been as healthy. Now, instead, he says, if the best of the crop, best of the fruit, was saved, and then those seeds are then sown, that means the next crop would be better than the previous crop, which means because the best seeds have been sown. Yeah. Now, that is how the future generations can be ensured to be healthier than the previous. Now, given some reports that said that birth rates are coming down, and the pandemic has affected many lives, these past 2 years. So it becomes important, and it's said that the world population also has been also aging. Now, how do we ensure that future generations are going to be healthier and 10 times viable than how they have been? Is by going back to our basics, our original humane intelligence. Now, there could be a lot of difference in opinion, but natural has always trumped artificial. How do I say that? Is well, they have tried the GMOs, which is genetically modified organisms, and there have been much debate about its health. I have myself made a presentation on Terminator gene technology during my college times, and how a particular gene is made impotent, inviable, and that is altering how its function is, which is like suppressing something. And we have in nature, we have the examples of earthquakes, volcanoes, and different kinds of reaction. What you suppress in some way finds a way, and that could hit back in a way that you would least expect. Yeah. So working with the natural flow of how life is a wise course. Um, when you're going to suppress something, there is an expression which is not expressed as it needs to, and then and hence life finds another way. Could be like a volcano. Yeah. So GMOs have not been. They look all attractive, but not healthy enough. So natural, original humane intelligence, how we work with nature rather than fixing it, fixing nature, or controlling it and modifying it how we would want to, is being arrogant. While we are not so very wise. We are just a few years old with our technologies, while nature has been around since quite a long time. Um, so it would be arrogant to presume we know something about nature, which would be quite minuscule of what the total wisdom of what cosmic intelligence compromises. We are still looking through a microscope and telescope, discovering what is it about life, and we have a list of diseases. Yeah, while we have been studying the same human body since a long time, and still we have diseases. So there's something, a lot of things we don't know. Yeah, and hence on this International Women's Day, I bring your attention to part 2 of original 01 technology, 01 push-pull technology. Pelvic breath. Yeah. It's about 6 here. So I have been tending to do a self-care enough session at this time. So I thought today I will dedicate it to making this video, which would be also a time when when Sandhya and Chaya, when the day and the dawn and the dusk kind of meet. So that's also like a namaste, when the day is saying hello to the night, and kind of handing over the shift, yeah, like the job to the night, to okay, now you take over this part of the time of the job. So it's a transition time. It's also handover. So this is also the time when Kanyakumari is said to have been waiting to get married. Yeah, and Sandhya, the Kanyakumari. There is this place called Kanyakumaris, but the idea of the virginal originality, yeah, or the eternal, you could say it that way, but every person eternally virgin, no, but every person, somebody actually joked that when they are not with their spouse, they're actually unmarried. And I was thinking, very interesting perspective. But every person, if we're not regularly maintaining who we are, how we are, to our original quality, so that we are guilt free, so that we are not entangled with the different people, activities we are engaging in through the days. Maybe through our business activities, through our games, interactions, social interactions, food we eat. There could be germs, for example, from having outside food, which may be affecting the gut flora. So our instincts may be slightly different because we ate outside food versus homemade food, which may be affecting our health differently. For example, during the pandemic, they said, better not to take outside food because it could be contaminated. Now, this may have been true even when there was not the pandemic. There could be bacteria and many kinds of things, depending on the hygiene of where they prepare food. So this has always been the case. So this is also what I mean by contamination. Our home culture, our tradition, so to speak, the composition, the constitution, health of our body may be entangled, contaminated, or there could be toxins from our interactions with different people. And so also in our marriages, through birth, yeah, through the original push-pull technology. We could also say through birth, when a mother gives birth to a baby, A lot of people go through postpartum syndromes, and that's not as much discussed. And that is also from this human being coming out of the vaginal vault, yeah, where she has been carrying the baby for 9 months. So her body goes through so much, I cannot say distortion, yeah, but not the same as for an unmarried girl, or for a not yet mother woman, a married person. It's not the same. The body goes through changes. And then with the birth, she's suddenly not with a life inside her, and her body is a shape that it is. The skin is not as as young, probably, if that is a word, maybe saggy, no, from having carried life all the time. And the baby also is suddenly now not inside the comfort of the womb, but suddenly outside, facing the cold air, not as cozy, warm inside, in the fluid of the mother's body. Baby's own sac, own swimming pool. And outside, without the sac, yeah, just fresh. Okay. Just fresh air, yeah, and cry, yeah. Somebody's got to keep comforting the baby, so the baby is warm enough. Lot of changes that the mother as well as the baby goes through. Postpartum depression, when a lot of people do not understand what a mother goes through, what happens to her body image, what happens to her physiological composition, which was holding a life inside, securely safe, without any harm, 9 months. And then with the birth, suddenly that life is not inside and is outside, and she has to take care of that life outside while her body is going through, suddenly like a body part is not inside, yeah, and that body part is outside and she has to take care of that, yeah, and it's an alive body part and growing, yeah. So it's if it's a new mother, that's like a lot of change. A second time mother maybe a little more used to, this sudden change of a world experience, of a life experience, personal, physical experience, as well as emotional, psychological, intellectual, conscience change. So when a lot of people do not understand this, mothers go through postpartum depression syndromes, withdrawal, body image concerns, difficulty with interacting with people, like how it was while she was pregnant or before pregnancy. So the same people may not seem to be the same, because now she has to also take care of another life who's also looking at her like for everything, yeah. And people are also expecting her to be like suddenly this whole goddess who knows everything about how to take care of baby, or is expected to be the perfect mother. It's a lot of things. And hence, on this International Women's Day, I speak about the original Lord of the Rings. Yeah? Which not a lot of people speak about, or it's just so much prevalent that nobody's speaking about, or it's very all hush-hush, because intimacy is not a much spoken about word. But all life, the circle of life, moves because of this, because of these holes in between the legs. Yeah, private. Now, having said that, I also read a tweet about people carrying gadgets into their restrooms. People talk about, they say switch off the phones before you go to sleep. I think it should be keep your gadgets outside your restroom or your toilets, because the toilet or the restroom is the most private part of the house, and hopefully of your life too, because it is supposed to be a private space. And if you're going to bring gadgets in there, you don't have time for meditating. Yeah, you got to really meditate, contemplate on the private aspects of you. At least that one room is where nobody else can enter. And if you're going to bring your gadgets inside, you lose that opportunity of having just your space. Yeah. The Buddha got enlightenment because he sat on his bum. So he was contemplating on the matter, sitting under a tree, and then he came to the enlightenment that he himself is a tree. And like the green Tara, from seed to tree, and like our legs are like the tree having roots. So we are supposed to be rooted on the ground. So one of his enlightenment is that he himself is a tree. So given that his body is like a tree, and he was sitting on his bum, and then they call the bum around where they call the Mooladhara. Yeah. So if you're not contemplating on the holes between your legs, you're missing out on some of the basics. Moola, Adhara, by which to maintain life, the health, wealth, and wisdom of life. Now, after all this talk, the pelvic breath at Sandhya time, twilight time, also has another aspect to it, and that is, I've been saying a lot of people don't know their R's from a hole in the ground. But I think it should be, a lot of people don't know their software from their hardware. We've been referring the software and hardware like mind and body, and as though it's two different aspects. And that is why people don't know to have the apple and eat it too. Yeah? We offer fruits and many kinds of things to our deities. In India at least they do. In many religions, they offer food and prasadam, yeah, to deities. And there has been that reference that, how these deities eat all of that. As kids often ask, how do they eat all of this? So in India, they keep these fruits and different kinds of dishes you make for the deities, and after some time you take it and then you eat it, like prasadam. Between keeping the fruits and dishes in front of the deity and taking it out, it's become prasadam, it's become a gift. Like when it, yeah? And if a child has ever asked you that, or you've heard somebody asking that, then they say the deities eat the fruit or the dishes through the sukshma sharira. And what they are referring to is the software, the soft aspect, the appreciative aspect of our body, which is not eating the actual material of the stuff, which is how you have the apple and eat it too, which means it could be an apple placed for the deity, but the apple is not getting eaten. The appleness or the sense of the apple is getting eaten, and so the apple is still there, so it's not getting over. Yeah? So an aspect of the pelvic breath is like that. Our body is made up of the hard tissue material, and there's also the breath which animates our body. Now there's a function going on here, and hence I have to speak while things are the way they are. Now, you could say, okay, in terms of yoga texts, there is a reference to 49 kinds of breaths that animate our body. Yeah? You could say the matrix of breaths to be the mind. Yeah? And because we have not been appreciating the mind as connected to the body, and we have been maybe studying it as mind separate and body separate, and people do meditation, they say shut off the mind, yeah, and just meditate, you will get it, and there's a lot of difficulty around there. One of the difficulties may be because of the matrix of breaths which forms the mind, yeah, and also the matrix of the tissue of the body. There is the fluids and tissues and different kinds of fluids, different kinds of tissues. For example, the muscular tissue is different from the bony tissue, is different from the skin tissue, different from the different kinds of tissues. So the matrix of tissues and the matrix of breaths Yeah, you could call as the body and the mind. Now, and then there is the good self and the bad self, or the sukha and dukkha, or the good space and bad space. Yeah, so our body could be healthy, our tissues could be healthy, our breaths could be healthy or not. Yeah, so tissues could be healthy or not. So if there is toxins and contamination, then the tissues is not healthy, in which case we need to maintain the health, the originality of the tissues so that they continue to be healthy. Now, how do we do that? There are detoxification diets, for example, or there are different exercises by which the suppleness and toxicity of the body may be metabolized. If the metabolism of the body is better, then also tissue is maintained healthier. Yeah. For breath, you could say there are different kinds of breathing practices. Yeah. But oftentimes, when you're going to relate to the mind and body as separate, then there's already a, by God, there's a duality. And when the mind and the body has not been bridged, then there is a strife. Advaita, in one way, is where you're not seeing the body and mind as separate. It also refers to our body. If you're the complex of breaths and tissues, if we consider our body to be just one half of the whole, where a complementary partner forms the other half, who also has breath and tissues. Yeah, and when we are not separate, like from our body, there is no sense of separation with our complementary partner. That's when the heart is whole. And there is no power between the two halves of the heart. Yeah? Which is when we also have humanity cross boundaries. Yeah? That's when a marriage is more together. Otherwise, between the family that is your body and the family of your complementary partner's body, their genetics, their family background, that's when you have struggles across boundaries, between dynasties. Now, each person, people who are married, they have between their parents and the in-laws, and without any struggles, good, happy marriage. If there's struggles, unhappy marriage. Leo Tolstoy says, all happy marriages are the same. All happy families are the same. All unhappy families are unhappy in their own ways. Yeah? So you could say that it is all revolving around a marriage. Or rather, the marriage of a person who has a human body with the life they have. Now, if there is harmony between the person and the life they have, and they have no diseases, that's likely to be a happy family. Yeah, then it's about degree of health and what all they are doing in life. But no diseases, at least it's a reference for happy family. And that could also, and then if the person is married, they are aware of their complementary partner, and there is no strife and struggle, and between the two dynasties, and there is still harmony maintained. Great, yeah. So if a person does not have diseases, likely they are already in sync with their, their light self and their shadow self. The shadow is also unknown self, could be your complementary partner. Yeah, if you're in a strife and struggle between your shadow self and you have you've hoodwinked your conscience a lot, your conscience could be your complementary partner. Yeah, if you've been hoodwinking your conscience and you have a difficulty looking at yourself in the mirror, then you're likely to have different degrees of disease, either in the psyche or the emotion, or you could be having nightmares of some time, or you cannot really face God, so to speak. Maybe having God fearing, but don't quite have an aspect of God loving, because your relationship with your conscience may be a little iffy. That could also be a sign. So, a lot of talk. we keep it together at the holes between our legs. So during our private moments in our restroom and our toilets is also a time when we can examine our own relationship with our holes, because unknown and unknown self is also related. For example, there could be degrees of shame, guilt, different kinds of emotional experience related with the holes between our legs. Yeah, that could also be speaking about a relationship with our shadow self, which could also be our conscience. Yeah, so sometimes a relationship with ourself is not so strong, and hence people go into what's it what's the word, obsessive compulsive masturbation. Yeah, or it could be there are many people talking about how to get over it, but the point is a distance with your own self could also be a sign of a distance with your own conscience, in which means in some way you're not able to directly face yourself in the mirror, or you have these addictive obsessive compulsive behavior patterns, or there is shy, guilt, shame, or any of that. Could also be your relationship with your complementary partner. Yeah, so so do consider keeping your gadgets outside your toilets or your restrooms, and try using a soft sponge and a shower when you bath. Yeah, it's like rain falling on your skin. It'll help you heal, and maybe over time build a humane relationship, a kinder relationship, a gentle, kinder, mindful relationship with your own self, with your own skin, with how you treat yourself, how you relate to yourself, and how you heal yourself. Because while you're alone with yourself and you have your 10 holes, your nose, eyes, ears, mouth, and 3 holes in between the 2 or 3 rows, well, male or female, you still have 3 holes. You have a pee hole, you have a poop hole, and you have a willy hole. Yeah, urinary hole, excretory hole, stool hole, fishes, and one for your reproductive hole, fluids. So everybody has 3 holes. Yeah, but when you're alone with yourself, and how you take care of your 10 holes also is a kinder, humaner way by which you begin to start coming home to yourself by being inside the holes. Yeah, and appreciating life kindly from within the holes inside your body, and the holes can then be like a gateway, yeah, between the inside of your body and the outside of your body. Yeah, so how you relate to these holes, to these gateways, would also be how you begin to start being humane across boundaries. Yeah, like we have the doors and windows of a house, our 10 holes are like the gateways, doors and windows of a house, of the body that's a house. I hope this gives you pause for thought. There may be a lot of material here that's covered. While you're paying attention to each of these 10 holes, your experiences, your emotions, your thoughts, your relationship with yourself will keep going through different levels of gentleness, kindness, mindfulness. And it may take its own time. It usually takes its own time. But this is how we begin to start becoming humaner in our own personal, private moments. And a lot of the times we are alone. Yeah, while we have different people to interact with, it's usually our own life that we live. So we are spending a lot of time with our own body, and then we are interacting with different people for different reasons. So hopefully our relationship with our own self is kinder and humane enough so that we can then appreciate another person with their 10 holes and their life and their experiences, their emotional, physical, intellectual, spiritual composition more appreciatively and more respectfully, honorably, dignified, like when we bow to each other or when we say namaste, there is this acknowledgement of I am here, you are there, and this is how we are connected. When we say hello, there would be more scope for us to then better our relationships from this kinder, gentler, mindfuler appreciation from a humane perspective. I hope this gives you pause for thought. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Love.